Welcome back, guys. It is Championship Racing once again here at SARCO. Season 2 is proudly brought to you by Thrustmaster and Mettlestate. We're at the Oulton Park International for 2 sprint races of 20 minutes in the BMW 320 touring car. Sit back and enjoy the highlights of both races 1 and 2. 16 drivers qualifying for this lobby 1. In 16th place is Gav. He's representing Turbos and Bullets, a newcomer to the season. He finds himself behind the Cape Town boy Hamid, entering as a privateer in this championship. We are rolling forward to row number 7, and it is a shake and bake grid. Ronaldo in 13th place. He qualifies his teammate Stephen in 14th. Move on forward in a 12th position is Duppy racing for TTR. Unfortunately, Jacques are not joining us this evening, so he will fall into a lobby 2 for next week. 11th place is the Tosco 1 driver, Durkee. We move on forward to row number 5, and it is a Project Cat affair. Ross, our Scottish international, out qualifying his partner Jacques starting in a 9th position. We move forward to row number 4, and the Black Mamba driver Dylan puts himself in 8th place. And Theo making his return here to SARCO. He joining Sim Stuff Racing. We go forward to row number 3, and the Tosco 2 drivers are side by side with Gerard in 5th place and Louis in 6th. We move forward to row number 2, and Silverback Racing's Marius, he puts himself 4th, just behind Jake's the Black Mamba in 3rd position. And the front of the grid is Bruno for Silverback Racing. He finds himself on shoal for a Tosco 1. It's definitely going to be a close race. As we wait for the green lights, it is green lights and off they go. Bruno's got a great start coming off the line. All that looked like it was Louis who unfortunately bogged down, but Bruno's won the race going into turn number 1. Bruno leads with Charles 2nd, and Marius is 3rd. Jake's up into 4th place with Gerard in 5th. That's Dylan up into 6th place, having started 8th on the grid. They seem to all have had a very clear start going down the Old Mill Hall corner and clean through Cascades as they are now come through this very, very fast island bend. Bruno leads, Charles 2nd, Marius 3rd, then Jakes, Gerard, Dylan, Louis, Ross, Gerard, Theo. Extremely close right at these beginning moments of this race. And this pack is extremely close still. No one is really pulling away from the other. They are all keeping it very close together. Jump on board with Ross as he chases Louis, who's chasing Dylan. Entering into a lodge corner. Louis having a little look on the inside. Well, a little bit of lag, but very close there. Well, Ross has got that rear very loose. That's allowed his teammate to come past. And Ross now, unfortunately, having a drop down a position. Back to the front, and Bruno, he still leads with Charles in 2nd. Marius is in 3rd. Jakes in the green Ibar car. Oh, big lock up there by Bruno. We can just see how the front tires there just stopped. The battle's happening all the way down to 14th, 15th and 16th. That is Hamid on the inside, car number 10. Ronaldo's at the back. There's a gap pig running himself wide. Watch out for that tire wall. Oh, definitely contact there. Gav unfortunately clipping that outside wall, going through Island Bend. Too wide, just does not work there. Moving further forward, and Gerard starting to put a lot of pressure here on Jakes. And in the background, that is Louis starting to put pressure on Dylan. through a Druid's corner. Very, very tricky. That, as you can see how it just tightens up at the end, and if you don't get that line right, it generally throws you off and can unstabilize that car and really put you into the wall on the inside. But Gerard is not backing off from Jakes just yet as they cross the line to begin lap number 3. Duppy, he too now battling with Stephen closing up that gap. Duppy in a car number 27. Will there be a little lock-up? No, there isn't. A great exit for both the drivers coming out of the Shell Oils corner. Then in through Brighton's. But it seems like Duppy has held off this attack. 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th place coming into Cascades. Big lock up there for Dylan. He's run himself very wide. He's off the track. Oh, a little touch there on the side of Louis. Dylan tucks him behind. Gives a little flash to say very sorry about that. Let's continue the battle. Back to the battle for 4th and 5th position. Jake still fighting very hard here with Gerard. Jake's just not being able to open a gap. Through a Druid's turn number 15, it's a double apex corner. Looks like Gerard might have a look around the outside into Lodge corner, just not enough space there. But will he try the other undercut? Jake's losing a bit of traction coming out of the corner. Gerard trying to go around the outside. He'll now set himself up for turn 1, the old Hall Mill. Whoa, big sideways action there for Gerard, allowing his teammate now to close up that gap. But Gerard safely through Cascades. We're on lap number 4, and our race leader Bruno, he still has a shoal very much right behind him. Oh, a little tag on the back there. We'll keep this action going while we bring up the current positions here on lap number 4. Bruno leads with a shoal in 2nd place. Morris is 3rd with Jakes in 4th. Gerard is in 5th with Louis 6th, Dylan 7th. Jacques Racing is 8th with Ross 9th. Durkee, he's in 10th place with Theo in 11th. Stephen, he's in 12th place with Duppy 13th, and Ronaldo 14th place, Hamid in 15th, and Gab unfortunately having to retire. The two Project Cat drivers, Jacques and Ross, starting to close down this gap on Dylan. Dylan currently in 7th place. Oh, looks like Ross moved to the inside. Jacques had run himself a little bit wide. I wonder if that was actually a team orders there. It seemed way too easy. We'll see whether Jacques gets his pace back and starts putting pressure on Ross. Well, that was Durkee getting a little bit squirty. Ross very sideways down the Cascades. There's a teammate having a little look to the inside through the island bend. Will he go side by side? He goes tight, so Ross is very wide. Lock the brakes, so Ross puts himself straight into that tyre barrier. Very unfortunate there. You can see the damage on the front of that car. Ross is not going to be enjoying that. We seem to have another battle starting to materialize here between Duppy in car number 27 and Ronaldo for Shake and Bake in car number 85. Through a Kickerbrook corner and back over a Clay Hill, turn number 13. Very tricky corner is that the car, it feels like it's understeering. Through a Druid's corner. But Ronaldo not able to close that gap any further. They'll cross the line to begin lap number 5. So it seems like Jakes has started to open a gap away from Gerard. But it is Gerard's partner, Louis, also known as Iceman. He's not allowing his teammate to get away. There's Dylan. He's also started to latch onto the back. 4th, 5th, 6th, and a 7th position. Whoa, big lock up there for Louis, almost sliding that car in sideways as if it was a go-kart. So someone who seems to be having a quiet race is Marius in a car, number 31 for the Silverback Racing. His teammate currently leading this race, but you can see that Jakes is about 6 seconds behind Marius, and Marius is about 3 seconds behind Charles in 2nd place. Very neatly through Charles' oil corner. It seems like Dylan has started to close this gap here on Louis as they head towards Brighton chicane. See Dylan really attacking those curbs. Up through Hilltop, now to Hilltop chicane. We jump on board with Theo coming down Cascades, turn number 3. In front of him is Durkee for Tosco 2. Down the Lakeside Straight here, flat out through Island Bend. Then hard on the brakes here into Shell Oil's corner. See Durkee just struggling with that traction. You've got to remember that we have no driving aids currently on these cars, so that is no ABS or traction control. So if you do get that accelerate point a little bit wrong, it definitely does start unstabilizing that rear. But Durkee definitely holding his own here at the moment. We're on lap number 7, and Jake still has Gerard and Louis right behind him. We'll keep the action here, bring up the current positions. Bruno leads with Charles still right behind him. Marius is in 3rd place with Jake's 4th. Gerard is in 5th place with Louis in 6th, his teammate. Dylan is in 7th place with Jacques Racing in 8th. Durkee is in 9th with Theo in 10th. Steven is up to 11th place with Duppy 12th. Ronaldo in 13th place. Hamid in 14th. And Ross, unfortunately, down in 15 after putting himself in the tyre wall coming through the Island Bend. It does look like Gerard is starting to close up this gap behind Jakes. We'll definitely keep our eye on this action to see whether Jakes is able to hold up and keep him at bay. So Theo is definitely closing down Durkee now. And it looks like that is Jacques Racing. He's now closing his gap between himself and Dylan. It looked like Theo got a much better drive coming out of that last corner. We'll keep the action here coming through Old Hall corner. There's a very deceptive Denton's dip. Then down Cascades. Theo sucking in behind Durkee, trying to get as much slipstream as he possibly can. Durkee went a little bit wide off the track there, but it hasn't hampered any of his speed. Big lock up there by Theo. You can see that wheel stopping. Durkee really attacking those curbs, getting extremely close there to that tyre wall through turn number 8. Very neat and tidy through hilltops. Back to the leaders lap at number 9, and Charles got it very sideways. It looked like Bruno, he also ran himself a little bit wide there. But Charles has been in this position since the beginning of the race, and he just hasn't been able to find himself a way around Bruno. He has a little show as they prepare for Island Bend. Carries a lot of speed through the corner, but Bruno still manages to come out there ahead. Taking a lot of curb with them is both of his drivers. Then through hilltop, then down this long little sweep, then into this chicane, turns 10 and 11. And it did seem that Bruno got a much better exit. You can just see that that gap has now opened, possibly to 3 car lengths, where a few corners before it was down to 1. Dylan is being harassed here by Jacques Racing, lap number 8. Through the last corner, Dylan's had a big power slide. Jacques moves himself to the inside, but Dylan sees him coming and gives him a little block. Dylan leaving enough space into the turn 1, takes too much curb with him, the rear snaps out. Jacques carrying a lot of speed, he now goes to the inside. Will he try the undercut here through Cascades? Dylan under a lot of pressure. Looked like Jacques just backed off a little bit there, but he's tightened up. Dylan's run himself wide. Oh, Dylan losing that rear. Jacques just giving a little tap. That's now allowed Theo to go past. We'll just bring up the position, so Jacques now up into 8th place, Theo in 8th, and Dylan in 9th place. Jakes is still batting the 2 Tosco 2 drivers. Just hasn't been able to run away from these two, and both Gerard and Louis are keeping this pressure on him. Back to the front of the pack, and Scholl still hasn't found a way around Bruno yet. Bruno really driving extremely well to keep Scholl at bay. See them coming through Denton's. And in the background there with some damage on his car, let's see, that is Gerard. So Gerard, having spent most of his race just behind Jakes, he's unfortunately now dropped down to 8th place with 2 laps to go. I'm sure he's going to be kicking himself. Well, Jacques very aggressive onto that curb. Turn at number 10. But at the moment we have, well, there's someone in the background. They're taking some signboards with them. We jump back quickly and we see that it was Ross getting Cascades very wrong and just moving the signboards out of the way for the next person running wide. Race leader Bruno comes through turn number 16 for the last time in this race. Flashing his lights, he will cross the line in 1st place with Charles in 2nd. 3rd will be Marius with Jakes in 4th. Louis, he will finish in a 5th with Jacques Racing in 6th. Theo is 7th. Gerard 8th. Dylan will come home in 9th place with a Duppy in 10. Ronaldo 11. Hamid in 12th. Dirkie, he will drop down behind Ross. Ross will finish in 13th with Dirkie 14th. Stephen in 15th, and Gav unfortunately retiring. So that was extremely close racing there in heat number 1. We now move on to heat number 2. So we take a look at the starting lineup for race number 2. In 15th place is Gavin, 14th is Ronaldo, 13th Hamid, Dylan is 12th, Stephen, he's in 11th, and just behind Duppy in 10th. Jacques Racing's in 9th position with Theo in 8th, Ross is 9th, Jakes starts off in 6th place with Marius in 5th. The Tosca 2 boys in 4th and 3rd, Louis in 4th, Gerard in 3rd, Charles, the 2nd place driver for race 1, he's in 2nd place, and our race winner Bruno, he finds himself back on pole. We wait for the green lights here. Race number 2, it is a green lights, and away we go. Bruno's got a great jump off the start. Unfortunately, that was Louis. He's bogged down. Dylan too having a good start coming around the outside. It is Bruno that leads the charge, going down into turn number 2, followed by Charles, Gerard, Marius, Jakes, Ross, Louis, then Jacques Racing. That's Theo, Dylan, or Duppy's gone a little bit wide. There's one of the shaken back drivers. The two are side by side coming through at Island Bend. The Ross has gone a little bit wide. He unfortunately had to hit those brakes, did not want to have another repeat of his first race incident. Gerard exiting out of turn number 5. He is very closely followed by Marius, Jakes, Louis, Jacques, Theo, Dylan, then Ross. Signal file through turns 10 and 11. Marius defending that line from Jakes. But that is Louis. Oh, he's got into the brakes a little bit late there. That's unfortunately sent him straight into the barrier. Not quite sure if there was contact on that braking zone, but he definitely did not look like he had braked. The Jakes are right on the rear of the silverback driver. Jakes taking out a much tighter line. Coming out of turn number 14 here, hard onto the brakes through turn 16. Marius goes wide. Jakes tucks in right behind him. Will he get that slipstream? Jakes decides to move to the outside, looking for turn number 1. Jakes backs off and allows Marius through. He tries the undercut. Marius is a little bit squirrely coming off that curb. Down into Denton's. Jakes having a little look on the inside. Will he go? No, he doesn't. He lets Marius through. And all this is doing is allowing Jacques to close up that gap behind Jakes. We jump on the roof of Jacques. You can just see how close these guys really are. Marius has gone a little bit wide. That's allowed Jakes to go through into the braking zone, turn number 10. Little lock up there by Jakes, but he's managed to get that power down and hasn't allowed Marius to close that gap on him. Up Clay Hill through turn number 14, now through Druid's cornered. Well, a little tag on the back of Marius from the Jacques, but he has a look to the inside. Marius goes wide. He'll get the faster line coming out of that corner. He now will get the inside advantage. Jacques will have to tuck in behind him, as he does right there. But what we don't see is that Theo and Dylan are starting to close up on this pack, with these guys battling it out so intensely. Well, there's Hamid in the background making a hash of that. Into turn number 5. Jakes is currently leading this battle, but Bruno, he will still be leading, with Charles in second, Carrot in third place. We just jump a little bit further back. We see how Hamid just flicks that car through that corner. He's starting to put some pressure on Duppy. Just looking how that car's reacting, I would believe that Hamid has got a stable setup. He does seem to have a little bit more grip. Lap number 4. And Jakes and Marius. It looks like Marius had gone a little bit wide. But that is the battle for a 4th place. Jakes leading Marius ahead of Jacques Racing. Well, Jakes has got that very wide, big smoke there as Jakes' rear is snapped out. But he did manage to hold that lead and hold that gap ahead of Marius. But he's definitely getting a very crowded. Jakes really hitting that curb extremely hard. Into the second chicane on this track. As they make their way up Clay Hill through turn number 13. You just see how the cars just lift up over that bump and then settle themselves going into 14. Looks like Jakes has got his composure back, starting to just pull a little gap away from Marius. But Jacques and Theo are waiting for an opportunity to pounce. Through turn number 1. A little drift there for Marius coming out of turn 1. Down into turn 2, into Denton's, here into the Cascades. Marius has run himself wide. Goes to defensive. Jacques looks like he'll go around the outside. They are side by side. Marius had the inside line. That's unfortunately not had enough space for both himself and Jacques. I did want to have a little look at this incident. You can see Jacques slightly ahead, but Marius is still holding the inside line. And Marius, unfortunately, just hitting the inside of Jacques, pushing him wide, and Marius still continuing on the track, and Jacques unfortunately going off, and very fortunate not to collect the tires on the way through. So approaching to begin their 6th lap. Dylan finds himself being chased by the cat. That is Ross, our Scottish international, driving with their Union Jack colours. Ross looking away to get around this Black Mamba driver. We see in the background that was Jacques Racing, the partner to Ross. Big lock up there for Ross coming into Shell Oil's corner. But Ross are not able to get close enough to make an attack. We'll definitely keep our eye out on this battle. Back to the front of the pack, and Bruno still leads ahead of Charles. A lock up there for Bruno going into turn number 10. You can see how these two have started pulling away from the rest of the pack. And once again, Scholl finds himself behind Bruno, looking for a way around him. The double right-hander through Druids. Remember, it tightens up on you. You've got to get that line right, because that curb is very unforgiving. Up through a deer leap across the line to begin a lap number 6. The battle with Dylan and Ross is still very much heated side by side as they come through the start and finish line. Ross has made his move. He moves to the inside. Dylan gives him a little tap on the behind there, just showing him that he is still there. Down through turn 3 Cascades. Ross has had to brake. Dylan's got a much faster line. Little close of the door there. Dylan sees Ross coming. Ross goes wide. Dylan tries the undercut. The third and fourth place battle. Jakes is starting to get ever so closer to Gerard. So there are currently 4 battles with the drivers within a second of each other. Well, we saw a car going off there in front of our screen. It looked like it was one of the shake and bake drivers. I haven't seen him come back onto the track yet. Dylan are not happy with letting Ross go. So Dylan fights back a little bit wide there. I'm not sure whether he'll get a penalty for that. And in the background there, that is Jacques Racing. Teammate to Ross starting to catch up while Dylan and Ross are fighting it out. Through a clay hill, down past the water tower, setting up for a Druids turn number 15. Just about side by side. Well, Dylan runs wide, not getting that better of the braking zone there. 7th, 8th and 9th place. Dylan managing to go around Ross again. Through Druids. Dylan's got a very sideways. That's going to definitely hamper his straight line speed. We'll see Ross moves to the inside. Dylan will have to let him go. Ross is on the power too soon. That's allowed Dylan to take that place back once again. Now Ross's teammate, that is Jacques Racing, he now moves ahead of Ross. Dylan runs wide into turn 1. All 3 drivers safely through Cascades, turn number 3. A race leader, Bruno, he still leads Scholl, who's in 2nd place, with Gerard in 3rd. Jakes is 0.4 behind him. We'll jump to that action right now. Morris, he's in 5th place, with Theo in 6th. Dylan is 7th, fighting with Ross in 8th. It looks like Dylan managed to get that place back from him. Jacques, he's in 9th with Dupi 10th, Hamid is 11th, Louis in 12th, Stephen 13th, Gav in 14th, and Ronaldo in 15th place. Dylan, Jacques, Ross. Dylan is wide again. Ross, he too is wide. Jacques getting right up behind Dylan. He moves to the inside, but Dylan has managed to get the exit speed out of that corner. So Jacques will not be able to lodge his attack right now. Dylan is safely through the hairpin. It does seem like Jacques is faster than Dylan, but he's just not finding a way around Dylan, and moves to the inside to protect that inside line. Gives him a little squeeze. Dylan maintains that lead. Out through turn number 12. With about 5 minutes to go, around 3 laps, you can see Marius closing up that gap on Jakes. Gerard has moved himself a little bit further away from Jakes, not feeling as much pressure as he was a few laps ago. So it has been extremely close throughout this entire race. Lots of battles happening all over the place. The orange car in the background, that is Theo making his comeback. Theo having joined us for a couple of the fun races, but actually hasn't done an entire season with us, and great to have him racing up front here with the leaders. So race leader Bruno will go through a deer leap for the last time. He will cross the line and finish in first place with Charles in second. Gerard will finish in third place with Jakes in fourth, Marius fifth, Theo in 6th place. Dylan will cross the line in 7th ahead of Jacques and Ross, but unfortunately will serve a 3-second penalty, and Dylan will finish in 9th. Dupi comes home in 10th place with Hamid in 11th. Louis finishes in 12th with Stephen 13, Gav in 14th place, and Ronaldo in 4th. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching the highlights of both those races. The SARCO Season 2 is proudly brought to you by Thrustmaster and Mettlestate. If you did like that video, please give the video a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit that notification button so you can be notified of any live streams or new replays that have been put up. We'll be racing the BMWs once again in 2 weeks' time. Until then, keep racing, and we'll see you later. Yo.